Exodus chapter 4, verse 21. So now we're in front of, I think it's a government building here in Yangon. Remember, Yangon used to be the capital of Myanmar. Now it's Naypyidaw. And yeah, the church in front. We recorded the previous verses is just there, right? And we're still going to record at the Sule, but we will move around to the Sule there as well. And then, like I said, going to the park and record here in front of the park. Quite a number of people there. So this is like really center of Yangon. Exodus 4 verse 21. And the Lord said to Moses, when you go back to Egypt, see that you do before Pharaoh all the miracles I put in your power, but I'll harden his heart so that you will not let the people go. Now this is kind of not such good news, right? So yeah, but God is giving him a heads up. It's a little bit like he's going to do for Isaiah years later in chapter 6. That, you need to go out, tell the people, but trust me, none of them is going to listen to you. And so in this case, it's a little bit like what is happening here, what is God is telling him here, right? So saying, you need to go back and you need to go to Pharaoh and you need to go and show him all these miracles, all the miracles that I, God, that is put in his power to do. Not what Moses could do, because Moses had this name of God, right? It's not like, okay, you can now use the right name of God. I just gave you in the previous chapter my name. Now you can abuse me, manipulate me. I preached about it this morning and get whatever you want to. No, you will do the signs that I put in your power to do. So God gave it to him. He was not going to, there was no need for him to manipulate God. God wanted to do this, right? That is as well a very important point here. But then the other important point here is God is going to harden his heart. Now we're going to see later on in the chapter, in this whole story, that's actually Pharaoh hardened his heart first. So it's not a question of God, I will force Pharaoh to do this because I want to kill Pharaoh's son kind of idea, and I want to destroy, and I have so much bad happened in Egypt. No, it was nothing like that, right? The fact of the matter is Pharaoh already did not want to do anything. Pharaoh didn't want to let the people go. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. There was no need for God to harden his heart in the beginning, because he is a sinner. He's slave to sin, and the political situation, they just said, no, you don't do this. There's no way. And coupled with his sin and all of that, sure, he was not going to let this happen. He's not going to let it go. So after hardening his heart, then God will let Pharaoh ultimately, then Pharaoh will let him go. But so he hardened his heart first, then God hardened it more, and then ultimately he is going to let the people go. Right, verse 22. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. And I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. If you refuse to let him go, behold, I will kill your firstborn son. So this is the words that Moses had to give to Pharaoh. Now, actually, the place before where I mentioned the fact that did Moses lie, or did God lie to Moses in telling him what to? Remember, where God told him that he needs to go to Pharaoh and just tell him, I want them to come and worship me, right? And we know that God's ultimate plan is not just for them to come and worship them. That's that, right? God wanted them out, and God wanted them back in the promised land, where they would be then as well used by God as a tool of judgment on the people living there. Now, so here again we see then that God in verse 22 is like saying that Israel is God's firstborn son. That's kind of an important point here. The current dispensation is seemingly that's God's only son. Right now, he's a firstborn son, and furthermore, so that would imply there are other sons as well. Okay, so it's just the firstborn; it's not all the sons of God. Okay, that is important. For later on, that's going to become important. But actually, that's more important here is the fact that Jesus is called, right? John 3:16. Okay, the only begotten son, right? So only begotten, that kind of implies he's the only one, and that would imply he's the first as well, right? So that kind of idea comes in at play here, right? So ultimately here it is Israel, the people of Israel, but then ultimately this is going to be Jesus, right? Out of Israel, out of Egypt I've called my son. The same he did for the people here he's going to do, and later on in the New Testament. And the New Testament interpret the Old Testament, right? I mean, I think we understand that. And so, yes, again, that's kind of a knife will stab into the back of a may not even the back, into the front, because I don't like backstabbing people, but in the front of a dispensation. I just honestly can't really see how, like, Israel, and I mean even John MacArthur, and all the respect I have for him, standing. Well, he was not a Baptist, he was kind of, but standing in front of the Baptist church over there, right? That here in this case, he was so blinded by Israel that and this weird kind of a love for Israel that he could not see the truth for the truth. Yeah, I told you a number of times, go and listen to my John videos. I love Israel and Jews as well. I want them to repent, but you're not going to get people to repent if you never tell them the truth, that they need to accept the Messiah. Right, so verse 23, then it says, like, you need to let my people go to come and serve me. So ultimately, that is what God wanted. I mean, God wanted the people. This is, in a sense, not a lie. It's not just a 3 days trip. This is going out to the promised land where they will serve him. They're going to conquer the land. They're going to be a tool used by God to discipline the people. They're going to build the temple, all those things. And then ultimately, the prophets and other than Jesus will come. So it's going to be, yes, they're going to be that. That is what they're supposed to be. They are the first, right? They are the ones that God's. But remember, when God made the covenant with Abram, God did not only make a covenant with Abram alone. He made it with that he was supposed to be a blessing to others as well. So he's the first, but others will follow, right? The whole world, ultimately, everyone that believes in the Son. So, and then this warning, he's giving you a warning. If you don't let my son go, right? If you don't let these people go, then I will kill your firstborn son. Like Israel is my firstborn son. If you don't let them go, then I'm going to kill your firstborn son. And that's kind of what is going ultimately to happen, because he's going to harden his heart. He's not going to let, and then God will harden his heart more, like we've already seen, and he's not going to let go, because he does not. Politically and sin, all of these things played a role. Look at the main man of the day, like the superpower of the day, the president of the superpower of the day, to like let people go just because some other bush guy came out there and tell him to let go. I mean, how does would that look like on my CV? Not very good. So yeah, he was not going to let that do it. And that was a warning, like God gave to Adam and Eve in the garden. If you eat of this, and you're going to die. And in this case as well, if you're going to not let my firstborn son go, then you're going to die. That's just that. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Not an eye for a whole. Not one person for 5,000 people, like is going on in Gaza at the moment, right? But it's one for one. Okay, so the war would have been over there in Gaza a long time ago if it was 1,200 to 1,200. But anyhow, it's not stopping at all. And God is showing, my firstborn son, you let go. You don't let my firstborn son go, then your firstborn son. So it's one for one. That's that. But now you can see that Pharaoh had only one son, and actually God's speaking of all of the Jews here, not just of one. So that kind of, even in a certain sense, worse news for a guy. Like Pharaoh's one son is going to be in the same level as all of the Jews, kind of idea. Okay, don't want to go down that road now either. All right. So I think you can think a little bit for yourself. All the implications. But anyhow, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That was how it's supposed to be, not go over it. But yeah, the Jews today, they don't really believe in God, so they don't follow God's law ultimately, and sadly as well, especially for the Palestinian sake. Right. So yeah, but ultimately, as we know, it is about Christ. Because out of Egypt, I've said this as well already. Out of Egypt, I've called my son, and it's going to be the Son of God that's going to die. So by killing Pharaoh's son, it's not a question of God then, okay, I'm willing to kill yours, but mine's not. So no, God was willing to let his own son die as well, to really let the people, to set the people ultimately free from the slavery of sin.